Hey, how you doing? I'm going to start this one by telling you a bit of a story, and it's probably going to feel like it's completely irrelevant, but I promise you, it's not. Way back in the late 1990s, I was working as a nurse. I qualified in '96 and worked in A&E. I worked in a number of different departments. I believe we call it the emergency department today. In America, you guys call it ER. I'd been there for a number of years, quite experienced, a relatively senior nurse. And one of the things that we did as part of that role, working as a nurse in the emergency department, was that we provided an advice line. This was before things like NHS Direct and 111, which we have now in the UK, which are advice lines set up to be able to give people the advice that we gave. But because it wasn't standardised, the quality of advice could vary from department to department, from staff member to staff member, so the government effectively made it a national service. But anyway, we used to do that. People would ring up and they'd say, oh, this has happened, should I come into hospital or not, am I okay? And we'd say, yeah, you need to come in and get that checked out, or it sounds like you're fine, if it doesn't settle down then go and see your GP. First tangent-y move. One night I was at home with my first wife and our baby daughter. And she'd been a little unwell, a bit of a virus, nothing particularly specific, nothing worrying, just one of those things that kids get. She had quite a high temperature and it hadn't come down when we'd given her Calpol, paracetamol, acetaminophen. And so we were just, keeping an eye on her, making sure she was all right. We weren't particularly worried, but kind of just as we were getting ready to go to bed, quite late at night, she kind of almost shrieked and then had a fit. Now, there's a thing called a febrile convulsion. It's relatively common. Some children are very prone to it. It's not particularly dangerous in any way. It's not epilepsy. It just means that when they get a temperature, when they're pyrexial, they will have a fit. And that's just one of those things. They almost always grow out of it and it almost never develops into anything else. And it was something that we used to give advice on quite regularly. And I knew full well that the advice was, unless you know absolutely for certain that your child is prone to this and it's happened previously and you don't have any concerns, then you need to come into hospital and you need to get them checked out, because whilst febrile convulsions aren't particularly worrying or dangerous or damaging, there are other things that can also cause fits that can be dangerous and damaging, so those need to be ruled out. Really, really simple stuff. And I knew this. However, at that point, I knew nothing. All of that knowledge went completely out of my head. And what I found myself doing was getting on the phone and ringing my colleagues in the emergency department that I worked in to ask them what I should do. And they gave me that information. So we rang for an ambulance, went to the hospital with her, checked her out. She was fine. Wasn't a problem at all. She stayed in for a day or so. They ran a few tests. Nothing to worry about. She's now a perfectly healthy, lovely, intelligent, wonderful adult. So why am I telling you this? Well, there's a thing that happens to us a lot, in that when we're in the middle of a situation, we lose any ability to be objective about judging that situation. And that's happened to me. And it's probably happened to you. Now, let's go back to martial arts now. So suddenly, I don't know however many minutes in we are now, suddenly it's going to get relevant. I've been involved in martial arts since I was a kid. I've been teaching martial arts for two and a bit decades. I've run a number of clubs. I've run some very successful clubs. I've been invited to teach all over the world, and I've travelled around, and I've had an amazing time from my martial arts. I've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of ability. I'm a great teacher, and I've had a lot of very successful students. However, it would appear that I'm completely unable to judge my own progress. As you know, for the last few months, I've been attending BJJ classes on a regular basis, both gi and no gi, and I'm having a great time, loving it, And there's a kind of a small group of guys there. The classes are relatively small, somewhere between sort of 6 and 10. And it's great. They're lovely, and a lot of the kind of the knowledge and the ability and the instincts that I've lost over the last few years of being out of grappling are coming back to me, and I'm definitely improving. I can see that what I'm doing now and how I'm performing in live rolling with some of these guys is significantly better than it was a couple of months ago. I can see that completely. But what I completely failed to take into consideration was the fact that they are also improving. They're now rolling against me, somebody that rolls in a slightly different way, has a bit of a different feel to the way we grapple. You know this, if you roll with somebody, there's kind of almost a flavour to the way they grapple. We've got a guy that trains with us, he's known affectionately as Judo Dad, because he is, I believe, a sixth dan in Judo. He's a brown belt in BJJ. He's knocking on a bit. He's one of the few people at the club that's older than me. But, you know, I mean, he's great. He's brilliant, hugely knowledgeable. But that when you roll with him, it feels completely different from rolling with anyone else. So, you know, me bringing my catch background in and my I've spent 4 years eating cheeseburgers body in has introduced another kind of aspect to grappling for everyone. So they're improving too. So that whilst my performances against some of these guys may have crept up, what I failed to take into account was the fact that their performance has also crept up, so we've all improved. And this came crashing back to me only the other night because a couple of new guys came along. One of them has done a lot of martial arts in the past. He's young and big, he's taller than me, he's in really good shape, he's strong. And rolled with him fine, yeah, I managed to beat him, even though he was being coached by Judo Dad at the time, which I was really quite proud of, because, you know, he's probably 25 years younger than me and in vastly better shape than me. I don't know if you watch the Gracie Breakdown guys, they've got a thing called Boyd belts, that they talk about, the idea that 10 years of age is the equivalent to a belt. So if somebody's 10 years younger than you, that's the equivalent to a belt. So when I'm rolling with people who are significantly younger than me, I always try and bring that to my mind when I'm judging how well I performed. And yeah, I managed to beat him. So quite happy with that. But the other guy, he wasn't in particularly good shape, much like me. He hadn't really done any martial arts before. Kind of not like me, but I've been out for a while. And yeah, I mean, he's a lovely guy. He's incredibly game. And he's got exactly the right attitude. He's ready to just keep going and keep going and keep going. And he wants to learn. When you tap him out, he wants to know why. And we rolled. And to be perfectly honest with you, after 2 or 3 kind of exchanges, I just stopped because I was getting nothing from it, and he was getting nothing from it. So I effectively said, look, what do you want to learn? You know, because there's no point in me just beating you up for 6 minutes. That's not going to help either of us. And it was only afterwards that I had this realisation that I'm absolutely, utterly dominating somebody that doesn't do this. And that came as a bit of a revelation to me, because I'd not been able to see that bigger picture. I'd not been able to see the more objective viewpoint that I was improving. And people saying, oh yeah, you're definitely improving. Oh, your top game's great. Oh, you've got great pressure. No, that's fantastic. Oh, how do you keep managing to get out past my guard and get cycle? People are saying all these things to me, and my brain is just going, oh, they're just being nice. Turns out they're not. So yeah, I guess if there is a point to this video, and it's beginning to feel like maybe there isn't, the point is that you shouldn't judge yourself too harshly, because you're probably doing a lot better than you think you are, because you're judging yourself against the people that are also there and they're also improving. So yeah, how about you? Let me push this one across to you guys. Have you come across this in your training? Have you not realised how much you were improving until something has happened and you've gone, wow? Or is this not something that's ever really happened to you? And I guess it probably happens quite commonly, but I don't know. Stick something in the comments, let me know, and fight team.